jump into the legal example. So here we've got different look and feel. Look and feel really is up to you. And also the structures. We've seen a generic example, now we're going to look at a legal example. In terms of the processes you want to do, the look and feel of the content you're going to deliver, and the structures, it's totally up to you. We never come to you and say this is how you have to do things. Board is flexible enough so we can come to you and say, you tell us how you need to analyze your data, how to get value from your data, and we can build that in the system. Let's look at the BI reporting side of things in this legal example. My starting point here, my jumping off point is a supervising partner dashboard. That's why I've chosen to be my home screen in here. The functionality in terms of the drill down is exactly as we've seen it previously. My default drill there is looking at my commercial group by the individuals involved in that particular department. In the commercial group, I've drilled down as the individual fee earner breakdown. If we look at those, the dimensionality again, we see something now much more along the lines of what we be expecting to see in a legal example: fee earners, assignments, sub-teams, functions, divisions, and we'll see matter analysis later on. Now, this was a dashboard that we put together as a very much a visual dashboard with the charts and so forth, but it's not. It doesn't have to be like that. An awful lot of the time we talk to people in all verticals who don't necessarily want to see the pretty pictures. They're easily achievable by drag and drop, but maybe they want to see something more what they're used to in a spreadsheet, for example, and that can be achieved very simply. So I've got a detailed version of that same dashboard, still a supervising partner dashboard. Now it's purely the grids of data, so it's as you need it to be, and you can give different things to different people. Some people might want to see a more visual approach. Other people might be more interested in looking at something closer to the raw version of the data you're able to access in board. So what do we see here then? We see three key areas. We see departmental performance on the left-hand side. So we're looking at our chargeable hours, utilisation percent, value generated, fees billed, and recovery percentages with our traffic lighting on there. And also in that final column on the right there where it says drill to, we're making it even easier for users to drill to further detail. Everybody still has the ability to right-click or click on a row to find the data they're interested in, but they can also make use of here just a single click, in this case to look at daily time, and that's what we'll be doing shortly. Clients by fees is in the top right-hand side of the screen. Very easy to filter with top 10 and bottom 10 filtering here for our clients by fee allocations. And again, we've made it nice and easy for anybody using this green dashboard to analyze the full client dashboard. So every client has a client dashboard. So selecting a row in here will take us through, and we'll see that as well, and also a separate analysis of matters. At the bottom of the screen, we're starting to think about lockup, and we're looking at our matters by client and those with the largest number of lockup days. So let's think about this departmental performance first of all. So I'm going to actually log in rather than looking at all the data. At the moment, I'm looking for all supervising partner data. A user would come in and they would probably not see any choices in here because it would go directly to their name if they're only allowed to see their own data. So if I go in as Barbara Becker, now I'm just looking at the data that she has an interest in. So we now see that she has an interest in the litigation group there on the left-hand side. And one of the tasks I've got, I need to speak to Eric Scott here, one of my fee earners, and we can see a summary of the information there: 58.7 utilisation, value generated just over 100,000. I need to have a conversation about daily time, so I'm going to make use of the ability to drill through to daily time for Eric Scott just by clicking on that link. That's opening up then a timekeeper daily time. All of these screens you build once, and then whoever needs to access that screen will go in with their own security profile and see the data they're allowed to see. So I'm now just seeing Eric Scott's data, and Eric Scott might come into this screen individually, direct from a home page, and see the same level of information. Now, we talked about having the ability to drill through to external sources of data, which you may not have the need to store in the full detail in board, and that example I gave you in legal was the timesheet data. I'm going to have a conversation with Eric about some time bookings on the, well, any of these will do. 16th of August, I think I've definitely got some data under there, and we can see, yes, I have. So it's passed the parameters. So now I'm looking at data which is sitting on SQL database on my laptop. This is no longer in board. I've drilled through to that data. I've passed the parameters, being the date and the fee earner. In this case, he's fee earner 60. That is Scott, and I've drilled through and queried that source system, and it's pulled back that timesheet data for me. So I've got at my fingertips that timesheet data, but equally we don't have a need to load it directly into the system. If you wanted to load it directly into board, you you could absolutely do that. But for this example, that wasn't a requirement. Great, I've got that information closely at my fingertips. Let's jump back to that main screen. Moving across then to the clients by fees and fees value. So clients by fees value. Let's have a look at the client dashboard. We can see here the number of divisions. This is the number of divisions we are working that this client is using with us, working in 4 divisions. Let's look at the client dashboard. It relates to all the work we're doing with them. Again, that's just a single click. That's taken me through to a client dashboard. So this may be for internal consumption only, or you may decide to deliver dashboards directly to clients, external access to board via the web, via a secure web portal, and they can view information that you want them to see and only the information you want them to see. Here we're looking at some fees realization percent of margin in the top left. Of course, it's all fully interactive in terms of the drill down on that data. Fees by work type in the top right-hand side of the screen. And then we're automatically scrolling through some client financials, some client WIP debtors, and client matter breakdown on the bottom of the screen. So deliver whatever's required for the user base, be it external or internal, to access. And the same applies here for a matters, just a pure matters analysis here. If I'm only interested in matters, I've got a matter detail screen again now, just focusing on this single customer. So we pass that parameter through. There's the client partner. There's the name of the customer. It's all fictitious data, anonymized, so no issues there. Moving down the screen a bit further, we see I've got a lockup analysis here. Now, on the face of it, all this is doing is just sorting my number of lockup days by the highest number of lockup days. In terms of the materiality of what that's revealing in terms of the value of lockup, in some cases it's quite low. So I've got £4 of debtors again on this particular matter, even though there's a 1,700 days lockup. I'm not really interested in £4. I'm not really interested in £50. So what I'm going to do is that I've been given the ability to filter that lockup for a parameter of my choice. I'm going to put 1,000 in there and set my limit. I'm not interested in any debtors that are lower than 1,000. So I'll just filter that, and that brings back a slightly better, more useful view with some material numbers in I might be more interested in. So we've got this client B0198 with a matter number on there, which is coming out with 12,000 of debtors. I might want to look at the invoices, so I'm linking directly through to those invoices, and again we're making it nice and easy for the end user. A single click on a nice well-labeled button takes them through to an invoice detail screen. Again, focusing on just on that data, so at the top of the screen I see those invoices by age band, all greater than 12 months in this case, and I can see some further detail underneath: invoice detail, bill value, total fees, disbursements, VAT, what's been paid to date, and so forth. Similar process applies to WIP in this case. I scroll down here, I've got 83,052 J. Morris & Sons WIP value there. I really need to have a look at that WIP value there, so I'm just going to click on the WIP link there, and that will take me through to my WIP aging analysis for that particular piece of data. And I'm seeing in there it's made up of not just UK, well the biggest chunk of that is Hong Kong dollars. Well, it may not be actually. Let's look at it all in GB pounds, and I've got my value there. Okay, perhaps I want to get some of this out into PowerPoint. I don't want to have to mess around typing numbers into PowerPoint or taking screenshots. I might want to have full interactivity to say, let me take any of this data out into PowerPoint, just as we've seen that ability in Word and Excel. Well, I've got the PowerPoint functionality here as well. So let's take that data out into PowerPoint. Here's my PowerPoint deck. My second slide then has my top 10 clients by fee allocations and a Pareto curve down there. I want to edit these values, so I'm going to connect to board via PowerPoint. Same sort of thing as we've seen previously. I'm going to connect there. Now we'll see I'm now live on that data, so I can edit any of my data, update it, whatever I need to do, add further items in, charts, data views, heat maps, and so forth onto this PowerPoint deck, pointing all the time to that one source of reliable data, which is residing in board. Fee earner dashboard is something I want to touch on next. I'm going to jump into a fee earner dashboard here. So we've seen the supervising partner dashboard. We've got a fee earner dashboard here, which has been built once, as you might expect, and then it's immediately available to whoever logs in with the right security credentials. So in this case, we're still looking at it from the perspective of Barbara Becker. We can see some alerts being scrolling through automatically down on the bottom right-hand side, and a couple of charts there. I'm interested in this 9562 WIP alert here, so I'm going to click on that 9562. I've got 8 matters in there, and it's taking me through to a detailed breakdown of those matters. So these are WIP items over £100 with no time transaction in the last 30 days. So I've got the ability to analyse those values here and see how that 9562 breaks down. And if indeed I've got any further level of detail below matter, I can drill down as standard by right-clicking on those items very, very quickly. Back on that fee earner dashboard, the ability of board to handle imagery very easily achieved. So I can link. In this case, we're linking a fee earner picture to the name of that fee earner. So any time we want to easily bring that image in, we can do. Working with property companies who do exactly the same for images of properties, and so forth. Of course, a natural choice would be as well to have product images in those situations of where that is relevant. Now we've looked at everything so far in terms of looking at what has happened, looking back in time, looking as I mentioned earlier on. Let's think now about, well, how do I want, if I want to start using boards to capture data input, model processes, and maybe even put a workflow layer over the top of that, so we've got full visibility in a process, say budgeting or planning or forecasting process, of where people are in that process. Let's firstly have a look at how we might use the data entry capability, apart from the obvious, such as maybe a revenue budgeting or planning. Let's look at here WIP provisioning from a matter fee earner perspective. So we've got the historical data, the historical WIP data that we've been looking at elsewhere. We're looking at it on this top grid by matter number, by client, and matter description. And we've got then the split down of that WIP from the time between 0 to 1 month right up to greater than 12 months and the total values. But as we move over to the right further, we see the default color for data entry cells in board, which is yellow. Any of the coloring, any of the formatting you've seen today can be changed to exactly your own requirements. We see here now I've got the ability to start going in and making adjustments now, saying, okay, I want to provide a full provision on this item, for example, or on this item over here, I'm looking to put a percentage provision in of 20% and so forth. So I can start to capture data within the system, and then use it to model scenarios and affect my WIP position and my provisioning in my accounts. And this can flow directly through to your accounts, which you can attach to this application as a seamless process. How would that relate to more of a workflow example? We'll touch on that before we finish the webinar. What I want to do now is I've shown you lots of content. I want to actually jump in now and show you how we would build this. If an end user, a lowest level user, wants to go in and build some content, how they would build a report, and then from maybe the next level up, a power user who wants to build one of these screens that we build once and deliver out to multiple users, how they might do that, and also how might we invoke the ability for people to start collecting data, having data in the system, maybe replacing cumbersome and time-consuming Excel processes and bringing those into board with the workflow ability over the top. So I'm just going to close out of this WIP provisioning screen and then jump back into my generic example, because I've got a good screen here for ad hoc reporting. So as an end user, lowest level of an end user, I've come into the system and I've found I can access certain content, and I haven't quite found the report I'm after, so I want to build my own content, my own report. I can see I've got access to the data, but I haven't quite got the report I want. The report I want, in this case, I want something which is years by region on the rows, and maybe I want to split those regions out by channel. This screen here is a nice, easy route into building my own reports. We very rarely train these users ourselves. It's normally a trainer-trainer approach because it is very quick to get up and running this sort of reporting. So I need to click on the Layout tab in the top left-hand corner of the screen, as it says there, a nice little helper screen there. And you can set one of these screens up exactly how you want it for your users. In here, I've got access to cubes, so my actual data. I'm logged in as an administrator, so I see a lot of data, but it might be the case you come in and only see actuals, for example, or only see budget. In addition, I've got the entities, the dimensions that define the structure of how my data is held in board. So time, customer, product in this case, because I've switched back to the more generic example. So let's say I want to have some actuals data on my report. So I'm just going to drag actuals in there. I can even hit refresh at this point, and there's my not very helpful report at this stage, but we will develop it as we go. So I can see my security profile gives me access to 11.8 million of actuals. I can even drill on this from the starting point, but it's perhaps more useful if I add some further rows and columns to this report. So what I'm going to do is just actually pin that layout tab to the desktop. I want that by years on the columns, so there are my years. I'll drag those across to the columns and let go. If I hit refresh, we can start to see that's now starting to develop as a slightly more useful report. I want my regions on the rows, so I'm going to drag my regions and drop those on the rows. It doesn't mean I can see all the regions, or in fact, it doesn't mean I can see all items in any of these. It all depends on my security profile. There's my regional analysis by year, fully drillable straight away. Actually, let's bring the channel in there and nest that together with the regions. I want down totals, that's great. I'll refresh that now. And there's my report. We could spend more time formatting, prettifying it, but for the moment I'm just going to save that as my own report. And I'll call it Legal 1 and click OK. Now perhaps, as you would imagine, if I come back in tomorrow, I don't want to have to rebuild that report, and indeed I don't have to. I've saved it, it's safely saved over there, so at any point I can come in, double click it and open that report. I might want to create my own personal pinboard. I'm the lowest level end user still, remember. There's no fancy licensing required. It's the lowest level user. I can create my own pinboard or my own dashboard. There's the report we just built. Here's a chart I've already got built there, so I'll just double click on that and I'll put that alongside. We can put as many components as we want on a screen. If I just want to fill the visible screen, maybe in this case I'll just put one more item on there. Now the item I want to put on there is actually something which I saw earlier on, something somebody else has built. And I'm as a lowest level user, I like this Pareto curve, but I've got absolutely no idea how to build it. I don't need to know how to build it. I can simply right click on it, add that. I'll call it Legal 2 in this case. Click OK. Back on my pinboard. Let's add it to my pinboard. There's Legal 2, which we just created. And there it is jumping in there. I think I might have added it twice. Yeah, I added it twice. Let's delete one of those. Patience in my double clicking. So there's my Legal 2. Perhaps I might want to even see the underlying data that's linked to that chart. I'll show that under my chart down there, and we can size that up so we can see the equal amount of chart and the equal amount of data. There's the underlying data. So nice to have on there. And I'll save that as my own personal pinboard. If the user who originally created that Pareto curve deletes it, not a problem, I still get it, mine doesn't disappear. So a nice way to allow users to make use of content that other people have built in the system. I'm going to close that pinboard down. Now I want to build something then which is available to lots and lots of people based on their profile. I want to build it once. So I'm a power user now. In a power user, my power user world, I have access to this home tab, and I'm only really interested in these toolbox items up here. This gives me all the objects I can drag and drop. Remember I said that everything we've seen today is drag and drop? Well, this is why I'm hopefully going to reinforce that claim. These are the objects I'm going to drag and drop onto a screen. So let's build a new screen then. I'm building a blank screen, but I could set up a screen with a background, a mask with my logos, borders, colors and so forth, but I'll keep it blank for now. I want a grid of data on that screen, so I'm going to drag a data view onto the screen. I want a chart underneath it, so I'm going to drag a chart underneath it. We'll get some data in shortly. I just want to get these items configured in terms of a layout first of all. I'll copy that chart there and bring that across, paste that over to the right-hand side. So I'll have a pie chart and a line and bar chart combination next to each other. I want the user to be able to filter this screen, make selections. So I'm going to bring a selector or two onto the screen. I want them to select, very importantly, I want them to select in this example based on channel. Okay, so ownership or security will be set by channel. So some users might come in and see one channel, some might see more than one. I want them to be able to select individual years in this case, or any other of my dimensions we see in this list. There's my year choice box there. Let's get the data in this screen. On my grid, let's build it the same way as we did just now as an end user. I want actuals. This time I want actuals and budget. There's my actuals. There's my budget next to it. I want a formula. I want to calculate the variance. A minus B divided by B as a percentage. And I'll give that a more agreeable title. Instead of that formula, I'll call it variance percent. And I'll set 2 decimal places on there. I'll also put an alert on there. If it's less than 0, it's red. If it's greater than 5%, it's green. I need some rows and columns on there. Actually, I'll stick with, I'll have on my layout, I want to have my months on the columns this time. So I'm going to drag my months on the columns. So I'll say actual budget variance per month. And I want to see my regions on the rows. And I'll refresh. There's my report. Maybe when users come in and use this, I want to restrict how they can drill down. So I'm going to limit the drill down entities so they can only drill down on month, customer, and channel. There we go. Actually, I'm going to copy this layout so I can use it to build my chart. It'll save me some time. I'll just copy that layout and then go down to my chart, and that's right, I'm just going to say paste layout. So there's my layout pasted. On my chart, I don't want the variance. I'm going to delete the variance. I do want actual and budget. I want to show them both at the same time on the chart. I don't want to see months. I just want to see regions on this chart, and I don't want totals. I want to give it a title, and I'll click OK. So there's my chart. I can spend a lot of time formatting and making this look exactly how I want, but for the moment I'm simply going to say for sales, I don't want a green line, I want a green bar. Change it to various different out-of-the-box chart options. My budget, I'll keep it as a line, but I will put a marker on it to give greater clarity of those data points. My pie chart, I'll also paste the layout that I had, so making things nice and quick, I'll paste the layout there. Let's get rid of my variance percent and budget. I'm only interested in sales, or maybe in a legal world, fees, and I'm not interested in the region or the month. I'm interested in my salesmen or my fee earners. I want to see fees by fee earners. I'm not interested in, give it a title, chart 2. I'm not interested in seeing all the fee earners. I just want to see the fee amounts for the top 5 fee earners, for example. And that's what I want to show on that chart. So at the moment then, it's a line chart. Let's actually get rid of those totals that are making it go up at the end there. Get rid of those. It's defaulted to a line chart. Let's get that into a pie chart. Very easy. Choose my chart type from my predefined out-of-the-box chart types, everything from waterfall to line to donut to radar. Let's choose a donut chart there, and I'll just make this a little bit bigger so I can see all my legend on there. So they're my top 5 fee earners in that case. So if I switch into run mode now, I've built that once. I can use that now in the web, in the client, mobile devices. You might want to build it slightly different for a mobile phone, but HTML5 would allow you to open that on a mobile phone, but you'd be sort of scrolling around the page. That's simple as that. That's how quick it is to set things up. All drag and drop. I didn't do any programming, and the drill down is available straight away. There's my restricted drill down on that grid, for example. Before we finish off and go to any questions, let's have a look and see how easy would it be for me to start getting users to do their data entry in this screen. Probably not the best looking budget entry screen, but imagine I wanted users to update a budget or a forecast or any sort of data. It doesn't really matter. In reality, we probably wouldn't be overwriting an existing budget. So I'm going to go in and back into my power user mode. And for my grid up here, I'm simply going to go into the layout. Under budget amount, I'm simply going to say enable data entry. This will only allow people who've got a security profile that allows them to write to budget. It won't give everybody free reign to write to the budget. I'm also going to allow top-down adjustments. So having done that now, the yellow cells that we saw in the legal example in the WIP provisioning screen, we now see in here. So that means I can do data entry onto these items. That data entry can be at whatever level you want it to be. Here we're already at an aggregated level. Down at the total, it's even a more aggregated level. So I might want to make a total of 400,000, for example, and split that 10,000 increase using the pattern that's already there. Or I can take that pattern from another version, another year, another category of data. I might want to do my data entry at a lower level. I might want to build a screen which is purely the lowest level data entry. But in this case, I'm just going to drill down to see the levels of data entry. Probably month wasn't the best choice, as month is already on the columns. Let's look at Southeast by customer. And there's my customer level of data. Maybe for an individual customer, in this example, I'll go down to a particular product. I haven't given myself product drill. I've disabled that, so let's go down to channel. and that's all in the retail channel. I can do my data entry at any level. We're not looking at the data stored once, more than once. We're looking at the data stored once. It's not replicated. We're just slicing it different ways each time. If I want to make adjustments to data in a global fashion, I can make block adjustments. So let's uplift these items down here, for example, multiply those, uplift those by 10%. These are one-off hard-coded adjustments, but equally we might want to hold those adjustments as assumptions in a queue of data, so we can have versions of those assumptions and do what-if analysis to see the different impact of applying those uplifts. Let me close it out of that screen. So that's a dashboard built from scratch in a few minutes and converted into data entry capability. Okay, what have we gone through then? We've gone through the way we navigate our numerical data, various ways we can make selections and filter, and then drill down. We looked at predefined drill downs that can be changed at any time. We looked at the ability to drill anywhere, so cross-dimensional drill downs. We looked at drilling to screens and also drilling through to external content, all easily configured. We then jumped in to look at some of the ability of board to handle commentary, supporting documents, images, and then we looked at some of the visualization aspects in tree mapping, regional mapping. There's a couple of options there. We then looked at the legal example when we started to flesh out some of the things we've previously seen in a real-life legal example, touching on some of the issues such as the WIP provisioning, providing fee on a dashboard out to our user base, and giving them the ability to get to the level of detail of data that they're interested in. Then we've come back in and built dashboards from scratch. One final thing which we haven't got time to cover off at the moment is what happens if you've got a user who has got their own data set. They don't want to, they haven't, the data they're seeing in this particular application is not related to what they want to see. The board now offers what we call data fast track, so that's a data discovery mode. You see I've hovered over that on the left hand side of the screen, so that now gives my users the ability to open up a blank instance of board and then point data fast track to that data. It might be on a SQL database, it might be in an Excel file, a CSV file, cloud data source, and they can start within 4 clicks through a wizard-driven approach. They can start analyzing that data in their own choice of methods. So, and all in the same product. We haven't left board once, apart from when we went out into the Office products, but everything you've seen today is all in a single product. So that concludes the presentational part of the webinar. I just want to have a quick look to see if there are any questions.